Hello, and welcome to The Insightful. I'm thrilled to have you here on our channel where today we will uncover the lesser-known truths about the human mind and behavior. Today, we're diving into the intriguing world of cognitive biases that impact our judgment and decision-making. Have you ever wondered why we sometimes make irrational or biased decisions? Well, our brains are wired in complex ways that can lead to certain mental shortcuts or biases, which may cloud our judgment and affect our choices. In this video, we'll explore a range of cognitive biases, from the commonly known ones like confirmation bias and anchoring, to the lesser-known ones like the halo effect and the availability heuristic. We'll delve into how these biases can impact our perception of reality, shape our beliefs, and influence our decision-making process. Confirmation bias. This, a cognitive bias that refers to our tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms our pre-existing beliefs or opinions, while disregarding or discounting information that challenges them. In other words, it is the tendency to selectively process information in a way that aligns with our existing beliefs, attitudes, or values, while ignoring or dismissing contradictory information. For example, if someone has a strong political belief or opinion, they may actively seek out news sources or information that supports their viewpoint while ignoring or discrediting information that contradicts it. This can lead to a one-sided perception of reality and reinforce existing beliefs, even if they are not entirely accurate or based on solid evidence. Confirmation bias can impact various aspects of our lives, including decision-making, problem-solving, and perception of others. It can also contribute to the formation and maintenance of stereotypes, prejudices, and misconceptions. Being aware of confirmation bias and actively seeking out diverse perspectives and information can help mitigate its effects and promote more balanced and informed decision-making. Anchoring bias. It is a cognitive bias that describes our tendency to rely too heavily on the first piece of information, or anchor, that we encounter when making decisions or judgments, even if it may not be relevant or accurate. This initial anchor can influence our subsequent judgments and lead us to make biased decisions. For example, in a negotiation scenario, the first offer or price mentioned can serve as an anchor that influences our perception of what is a fair or reasonable price. If a seller sets a high initial price, it can anchor the buyer's perception of what the item is worth, even if other factors suggest a lower value. Similarly, in a decision-making context, the first piece of information or option presented to us can shape our subsequent judgments and choices. Hindsight bias, also known as the "I knew it all along" phenomenon, is a cognitive bias that describes our tendency to believe, after an event has occurred, that we would have predicted or expected the outcome, even when we had no prior knowledge or information to support that prediction. In other words, it is the tendency to perceive past events as being more predictable than they actually were. For example, imagine a situation where you hear about a stock market crash after it has happened. With hindsight bias, you might say, "I knew the stock market would crash. I should have sold my stocks earlier." However, in reality, you may not have had any prior knowledge or indication that the crash would occur, and the outcome may have been unpredictable at the time. Hindsight bias can impact our perceptions of past events, our decision-making processes, and our assessments of others' actions or decisions. It can lead to overconfidence in our ability to predict outcomes and can distort our memory of past events. Being aware of hindsight bias can help us approach situations with a more objective perspective, acknowledging that outcomes may not have been as predictable as they seem in hindsight, and considering all available information when making decisions or judgments. Groupthink is a cognitive bias that occurs when a group of individuals makes decisions or comes to a consensus without critical evaluation or dissenting opinions. It often results in conformity and a lack of independent thinking within the group. One famous quote that captures the essence of groupthink is, "Where everyone is thinking alike, no one is thinking at all." This quote, often attributed to Walter Lippmann, highlights how groupthink can stifle individual creativity and critical thinking, leading to a narrow and unchallenged decision-making process within a group. Groupthink can occur in various settings, such as in business organizations, government agencies, social groups, or even online communities. It can be driven by various factors, such as a desire for consensus, pressure to conform, fear of rejection, or the influence of a dominant leader. In a groupthink scenario, individuals may suppress their dissenting opinions or critical thinking to maintain harmony or avoid conflict within the group. This can lead to flawed decision-making, as alternative perspectives, potential risks, or valid concerns may not be adequately considered. It's important to be aware of groupthink and strive to promote independent thinking, diverse perspectives, and constructive dissent within groups to avoid falling into the trap of uncritical conformity. Encouraging open discussions, welcoming diverse viewpoints, and fostering a culture that values critical thinking and independent analysis can help mitigate the negative effects of groupthink and lead to better decision-making outcomes. The sunk cost fallacy is a cognitive bias that occurs when individuals continue to invest resources, such as time, money, or effort, into a decision or project based on the amount they have already invested, rather than objectively evaluating the current and future value of that decision or project. Imagine you're watching a movie or reading a book that you initially thought would be enjoyable, but as you progress, you find it boring or uninteresting. However, you may continue to watch the movie or read the book simply because you've already invested a significant amount of time into it. You might tell yourself, "I've already spent an hour watching this movie, so I might as well finish it." Or, "I've already read half of the book, so I should continue to the end." In business, the sunk cost fallacy can also impact decision-making. For example, if a company has invested a substantial amount of money in a project that is not performing well, they may continue to invest additional resources in an attempt to recoup their initial investment, rather than objectively evaluating whether it is still a viable project moving forward. The sunk cost fallacy can lead to poor decision-making, as individuals and organizations may continue to invest in something that is not likely to yield positive returns simply because they have already invested resources in it. To mitigate the sunk cost fallacy, it's important to objectively evaluate the current and future value of a decision or project rather than being overly influenced by past investments or emotional attachment to sunk costs. It's important to be aware of these cognitive biases and their potential impact on our judgment and decision-making. By recognizing and mitigating these biases, we can strive to make more informed and rational decisions. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.